Hi, Trevor here, Life Reflection Requests. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. It's fantastic you are here. Well, it was only going to be a matter of time before the request for this song came. So here we go, and thanks to the guy for requesting it. As always, coming up in conversation, which is one of the best ways for a request to come. So these guys are as influential to the world of comedy as the Beatles are to the world of music. And it was a collaboration of a few comedians in 1969, Graham Chapman, John Cleese. Now, the minute I mention that name, you know exactly where I'm going. Terry Gilliam, Eric Idle, Cherry Jones, and Michael Palin. And of course, we're talking about the guys from Monty Python. As I said, massive influence on comedy, and the word Pythonesque is part of our vocabulary. And you know, there have been a few classic sketches that have actually been part of our pop culture ever since. You know, the Knights of St. Nick. I'm not the Messiah, I'm Brian, or I'm not the Messiah, I'm just a naughty boy, or um, or you know, Bring Out Your Dad, or the Dead Parrot sketch, or the Four Yorkshiremen. The list just goes on and on and on. And so, you know, these guys were absolute masters at the craft of comedy, very good at writing and very good at presenting the way that they did. Now, the song I have been asked to look at now, there's really only one song. When you think of Monty Python, there's one song that you think of in particular. We'll get onto that one in a minute. So a little bit more about Monty Python first. They have, as again, a whole heap of classic sketches that are part of our vocabulary. They've won a BAFTA award for their significant contribution to cinema, and also American Film Industry Awards. So that's on both sides of the Atlantic. And in fact, three of the members are in the top 50 comedians of all time. Now, of course, the Monty Python story started with the Flying Circus, and there was just the show that was on TV. That one, there was just skit after skit after skit, and they really pushed the boundaries of what was normal and all that sort of thing. And we couldn't believe half the time stuff that they were doing. Again, if we go back to the Dead Parrot sketch, the guy comes back with the parrot because he's complained that it's dead. And the next minute they have a 5-minute discussion about it. He's stunned and why were his feet nailed to the perch and all that sort of thing. And so the Flying Circus very much catapulted these guys into superstardom. And then after TV, they started to get into movies. Now, what I've actually got below, just to give a bit of love and I suppose a bit of credence to Monty Python, is I've got a few clips from some of their movies that we all know so well. So I thought I'll just run through these as we go. Now, of course, we started in 1971 with Now for Something Completely Different. This was Monty Python's first attempt at a movie, and as Flying Circus was very much one skit after another, that's what Now for Something Completely Different was about as well. You know, I think the Dead Parrot sketch got in there actually, and we got the grannies that were angry. We got the twit of the year, all of that sort of thing. And so that was their first attempt at a movie. And I thought from that particular movie, I've got the funniest joke in the world as a clip from that one. And it's just amazing to think what you can do with just something as silly as that, and the concept of I died laughing. So we've got that clip there for you as well. And then 4 years went down the track and everyone was just hanging out for another movie, and out came the iconic Monty Python and the Holy Grail, 1975. Now, of course, there was a bit of a story more around this particular movie. It was King Arthur looking for the Holy Grail and the people that were going with him. and a little bit more story to it, but still a whole heap of skits one after the other. The iconic skits in this one, we've got obviously King Arthur, pretending to ride a horse with people tapping coconuts behind him. Or we've got the holy hand grenade, which is absolutely hilarious. Or we've got just the various knights going through their things, and I don't want land, and make sure my son doesn't leave the room, and the whole conversation that goes on about that. And so Holy Grail was extremely successful for Monty Python and put them into iconic status at that point. The clip I've gone for from Holy Grail, we've got to be really, really careful that we don't go too, because they can stretch things a little bit sometimes. So I've had to go relatively safe with my clips because this is a safe channel, relatively I'm saying here. And so I've gone for the scene, the knights who say "Nick" from that particular movie, and just how ridiculous that whole thing was. And the shrubber. And the whole thing. And of course we all know at the beginning of Monty, the French taunting at the French castle, and then what happens at the end where they're back at that place after all of the effort they've gone to, and crossing the bridge, and what's the velocity of a sparrow? Oh, European or English? That sort of thing. And so Holy Grail's got some really iconic scenes in it. What about the knight that gets all his limbs chopped off and says, "Come on, fight me, it's only a flesh wound." And so Holy Grail is just full of classic scenes. And so we've got the knights who say "Dick" from that particular movie. And then move on another 4 years, and then we've got, in fact, something about 4 years actually, I've just noticed here. We came to the iconic Life of Brian. Now, that set up so many things, particularly around the Roman Empire in Jerusalem in particular, and all the funny things that were going on there. And of course, there was no shortage of people who were grabbing people's attention with the words that they were saying. And Brian was one of these unwitting people. I mean, who calls someone Brian in a movie like this one? Well, Monty Python does. And he goes from being this backyard nobody to like one that everyone follows because they think he's the Messiah. Of course, there's some iconic scenes in there about women who want to stay and they pretended to be males. We've got the rampant following of Brian around the scenes. We've got the healings. We've got all sort of stuff that goes on. And Life of Brian is just one of these iconic movies, again, full of incredible scenes. Now, I looked at Life of Brian and I couldn't go past. Now, I'm not going to give the scene its official title here, but I'm going to actually just say, what do you get when you get a Roman governor who can't say his R's properly and puts a W in there instead? And what can we do to really stretch this concept of not laughing on set, whatever you do? And so we've got that scene from Life of Brian. You know exactly which one I'm going to when I talk about that one. Michael Palin does such an awesome job as the Roman governor in that one. And also John Cleese is there. Throw him to the floor again, sir. So you've got that particular clip as well. And then another 4 years down the track, and actually while we're on Life of Brian, and I should get to the request that has generated this video today. The request was always look on the bright side of life. And of course, that's the iconic scene from the end of the movie when they're all kind of up there on being crucified, and they end up singing this big song and dance song number to finish the movie off. And of course, that song was written by Eric Idle, and the story goes that they just needed a song, and Eric wrote it in the afternoon. Apparently they didn't like it, but they just ended up going with that anyway, and it's now an iconic part of pop culture. And so we've got to have, obviously, the request from today, which is always look on the bright side of life. That one's there for you as well. And then in 1983, we went on to The Meaning of Life. Now, this sort of followed Monty Python's take on the significant life moments and all the things that happen from birth right through the death. But in typical Monty Python fashion, they don't do any of this stuff normally. I mean, the death scene is absolutely hilarious. You know, the Grim Reaper comes into a dinner party and he gets invited down to have a drink. I mean, what can we say? And there's a few other scenes there which, you know, you can look at if you want to. Let's just leave it at that. But when I was looking at the meaning of life, there's this great scene called When We Fight Each Other, and it's a war in the trenches, and the guys still whip it round for their sergeant major commanding officer. So that's quite hilarious as well. I mean, who puts a glass clock in the middle of a war scene? Well, Monty Python does. So that one's there as well. And just to finish it all off, I thought I would put in a live version of Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. This was a bit of a reunion concert for the Monty Python boys, and yes, of course, they had to come back and sing this song as part of the encore, and so that one's there as well. I think, of course, you know, John Cleese himself, he went on to do The Fish Called Wanda, and of course the iconic Fawlty Towers as well. He also got to play Q in some of the James Bond movies, and all the guys really have. Of course, Michael Palin was in A Fish Called Wanda as well, and so they've all gone on to do various bits and pieces. But as a group, these guys will always be remembered as one of the best comedian troupes of all time. So it's great to be able to do a bit of a video on them today. So what's the takeaway from Monty Python? And I think always look on the bright side of life isn't a bad way of looking at it. I mean, if we look at clouds, dark clouds, they have a silver lining. And this is very much what Monty Python was saying here. They're saying, hey, look, there's something funny that we can take out of any situation. By all means, we're not belittling life and pretending like life has its challenge, but at the same time, we all need a bit of a lift, and we all need a bit of encouragement, and we all need a bit of fun of our life. And this is certainly what Monty Python did in all sorts of obscure and weird and wonderful ways. And I suppose the thing is, if they had decided just to keep it normal, we wouldn't have had the benefit of some of these iconic movies and these iconic scenes that we all know and love. So always never be scared to be yourself. This is the trick from Monty Python today. Doesn't matter how quirky and how corny it is, the world needs characters. That is for sure. And so thank you to the guy who requested Always Look on the Bright Side of Life today, and it was so great to be able to walk through a bit of Monty Python's career, particularly some of the iconic scenes in some of their movies, and to bring that to you today. Well, if you have come back for another one, great for you to be back. If this is your first time to Life Reflections Through Music, welcome to the channel, and thank you for everybody for hanging around to the end. Well, as this was a request, this was a bit of a pause in the series. And as promised, next, from the last video I did, we're going to go on to the Doors next time. So until then, I'll catch you around. Bye for now.